Well, hello, everybody. How's it going? So, with this activity I've got here for you, is all about doing cool stuff with type and text, which basically means the same thing. Uh, but here, as you can see with my example here, I did something pretty crazy with my name. And what I got here basically is kind of a fake logo that's got my name on it, and then a little uh, artistic graphic that goes along with it that says something about me and who I am. So I am totally into music playing, and bass guitar is my primary instrument. And if you look really closely, you can tell it is bass guitar, but it is not obvious. And I did that on purpose. There's also a background texture too. So, in a nutshell, I'm going to introduce you guys on the different ways that you can control and tweak and play with type design and then make a graphic with your name on it. So, let's get started. What I want to tell you before we get started is there is no right or wrong way to do this project. The only way you can do this wrong is if you don't experiment. And that's what this is all about, experimenting with different filters and manipulations and tweaks and adjustments that you can do in Pixlr. So if you are deciding to use Photoshop, the tools are in a slightly different place, which is fine. If you do get stuck, you can either ask your neighbor or myself if you're in lab, and I will definitely unstick you. Okay, so the very first thing that you're going to do is you're going to create a new canvas first. So what I did is, since logos usually aren't really all that big, I'm going to create a new canvas here. So I'm going to go to web, and I'm going to go to this one here. Web 2020, which is a little larger of a canvas. It's 1920 by 1200 pixels. More on that another time, but just go ahead and hit create, and there's your blank canvas. Now, the very first thing that I did, well, actually, it wasn't the very first thing I did. I did it later, but you can go ahead and start by doing the very first thing, which is look for a background texture. So what I did is I just Googled background textures, and look at all this stuff here. Tons of all these cool background options. Anything that you can darn well think of, to something simple to something that's really intricate. And if you don't like the color of what you see, but you like the texture, don't worry, you can always change the color later using Pixlr or Photoshop. Now, if you don't feel like doing the background right now, you don't have to. But what I did is I found one, downloaded it to my project folder, which you have to have on your OneDrive before you even start. So I'm going to go back here to Pixlr, and I'm going to import what I've already made. So I'm going to go down to my plus sign from my layers panel and choose image. And I'm going to navigate to my project panel. And let's see here. Oh, there it is. I forgot that I colorized it. So that's what it looked like originally. That's what it looks like now because I recolored it because I wanted to do something a little different. Know, guys, that also if you don't like this texture, you can always replace it. And you can always turn it off if it's a little bit too much. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off temporarily by clicking on the eyeball so I can concentrate on doing my text design. So first step is create a new layer that's specifically a text layer. You can grab the text tool or simply go and choose text layer, and notice how a new layer appears above all the other ones. And we have some dummy text here just so you can see what you're writing. First thing you're going to do is choose a font. Pro tip, guys, if you're using Pixlr and you're looking for a font that you might want to use, notice how a lot of these fonts have this little yellow box. It's like a little crown icon. Okay, that is for people who have a paid plan for Pixlr, which you don't have unless you paid for one. So if you try using one of those that have the icon next to it, it won't work. So it kind of sucks, but hey, that's what you get for having a free uh, program to use. So I'm going to choose something a little bit different here. I wouldn't choose a font that's too stylish, that's so hard to read. And the reason why is because you're going to be tweaking your text anyway. And if you make some really hard to read text, and then you tweak that, you won't be able to read it at all. All right, so I'm going to, let's see here. Everyone that I really like is a paid one. So I'm going to go for this one. And of course, what happened here is your text tool automatically selected itself, and your contextual menu, your control bar changed to adjust for all your text formatting options. So I have my color, my size, and so on. So I'll go ahead and click on size. I get a slider, and I'm going to make it really big. Double click on it, and I'm going to type my name. There we go. Of course, I'm not sure if I want it to be white. I'm going to keep it that way right now. I'm going to change it. So I'm going to click on fill color. And of course, I can either pick a swatch. I can move my slider to an area that I really want. I'm going to try this kind of teal color this time here, just to start out with. Again, you can always change it later. Now, there's two main parts to working with your with text. If you're going to make some type art, right now I have a text layer, and this interface sees my name as text, which that hey, if I want, I can double click on it. I can change the lettering and change the size with my text panel, all that stuff. Now, when we get into doing all the filters and such, we have to do something called rasterization of the layer, which means we transform this layer from a text layer to an image layer. Now, without getting technical on this video, is we just turn that layer into pixels. But I'm going to show you how to do it the smart and easy way. Okay, so here I have this. Before we go any further, notice that we have format and styles. Format is something that you've seen before, but I can adjust my letter spacing. I can, spread them out a little bit, and the letter styling. But here is something that's pretty cool. Photoshop doesn't even have it that looks like this. I'll click on the styles menu, and I have 5 different menu areas: curve, warp, background, outline, and shadow. Now, if I click on one of these, it pops open, and I have 3 different kinds of curves I can go through. So ladies and gents, I can't go through all of these with you because it'll be a 2-hour video. So this is where you begin to play on your own. So if I have arc, I'll play with this, and notice how my text warps. Now it's still a text layer. There's an order which you should do this to make it more fun, is tweak your type design as much as you can using this panel, and then go to step 2. I'm going to go to warp. I'm going to go ahead and close curve. And I don't know, I'm going to try this. And I'm just going to tweak this for fun. By the way, you can move this around, which is kind of nice. And you can also make it bigger so you don't have to scroll. There's my center size, the offset. That's kind of cool. So there's that. Oops. I'm going to keep that on. Background just means that, what color is the background? I'm not going to use that because I already have a background. Now, outline and shadow is kind of cool. Outline gives you what's called a stroke. It just outlines your text if you want to do it. So I'm going to pick red just so you can see it easily. There. I think that's obnoxious, but whatever. All right. And then, of course, shadow. I am going to not do the shadow yet. But actually, I can. I'll just, so I can show it to you. Whoops. There we go. Shadow. Okay. So I can't really see it too well because I don't have a background. So I'm going to go ahead and make a blank layer here. So I'm going to take this blank layer, this sets your canvas, and I'm just going to get white text, white color, and I'm going to just dump it in there using the paint bucket tool. There. Just so you can see it. Let me move this up so you can see it better. Okay. And then back to text. Styles. Okay. Drop shadow. And you can adjust the blur. So now it's a sharp drop shadow, and now it's blurry. You can adjust that. the distance to kind of make it appear that your text is floating more or less, and then direction. So you can do all kinds of stuff. All right, I'm just going to keep it like this. All righty. Once you get something that you're starting out with that you think you're going to like, stop, and you're going to duplicate your layer. And you'll see why in a minute. So I'm going to just go ahead and mouse over my text layer, right click on it, so I get my pop-out menu. And oh, it's not in here. Okay, never mind. Don't right click the layer, but highlight your text layer and go to the layer menu and choose duplicate. And right away, you're going to see there's a copy of your text layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the one that's not highlighted by mousing over and clicking on the eyeball. Okay, so why did I just make a copy of it? It's because with this layer here that you see on the text, I'm going to rasterize it. And that means I'm going to turn it into pixels. Why is that a big deal? Well, you'll see. Well, I'll show you right now. Let's look at the filter gallery, shall we? Look at all these filter options, but they're all grayed out. They're grayed out because they are not available to you. And why aren't they available? Because this layer that we want to tweak is a text layer, not an image layer. So we have to turn it into an image layer, basically. So yeah, nothing here is available. Nothing. And I want you to be able to play with these. You can't even do any adjustments either. Go ahead and go to back to the layer menu, and you're going to choose rasterize layer. Now, this layer here that you see with my name are now made up of pixels, not text. So when I try to double click on my text layer to edit it, I can't do it because it's not a text layer any longer. All right, so why we do this? Because here's the part that's really cool is the filter gallery. So make sure that your text layer is open, or it's an image layer now. And look at this. I've got all kinds of cool stuff here. Again, I'm not going to go through all of these. Here's your chance to play. Let's go to the filter first. Now, filters are more than just filters. They're adjustments and tweaks too. For example, I can go to glitches, and I can make scan lines, just sort of like you see. That kind of looks like a low-res TV kind of scan. I think that's kind of cool, actually. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to play with some other ones. So creative, for example, kaleidoscope. Whoa, hello. That's crazy. I don't think I want that because that's making me dizzy. But you're going to click on filter and you're going to go through these. Notice how you can actually do a drop shadow once again. So, but it will work a little more differently. Here's what I like, bevel. Bevel's kind of neat. Notice how my text turned into something like it was 3D. Like my text actually has depth to it. And that's really fun, but you got to play with it a little bit. There's the size, which I'm going to reduce to about less than 10 pixels. I'm going to leave all this here the same. And you can change the angle and the highlight and shadow colors. That's pretty wild. See how this is just starting to just go cuckoo? All right, so of course, there's all kinds of cool stuff. Mosaic. I mean, you can go crazy. Now, of course, this is not readable, so I'm not going to use it. But play around with all of these. Inner glow, outer glow. Inner glow is kind of cool, but it doesn't work with my bevel and emboss, so I'm not going to use it. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my background. So that's kind of cool, but I want to add my image. So what I did is I looked for a bass guitar image, and this is what I use. This is what I found on the internet. It's a silhouette of a bass, but this is where I was looking. There's all kinds of stuff. I didn't have to use it. So I just found something that I thought was simple, because if it's too intricate, it won't look right. And I went ahead and placed it. So I went here, image, place. This is the last thing I want to show you here, and I'm going to just let you play. Now remember, if you want to manipulate something, you have to highlight the layer. So I'm going to go to bass guitar here. Oh, I know what's happening. I have auto select. I hate that. Okay, there we go. So I can play with this. Now, you guys already know that you can use the magic wand tool to get rid of the white background, or the eraser tool if you really want to work hard. But there's even a better way to do it, and that's called using layer modes. So if you do right click on a layer, you get something called a blend mode. And if you click on the drop down menu, there's all these different ways that your layer can react. I don't want to get into that too much, but you can choose something like multiply. And what happens here is it takes all the pixels that are light in density and it makes them basically invisible. Screen, that does the opposite. Notice how it's gone. Overlay, that's cool and everything, but I want to get rid of the background. So I'm going to go to darken. Darken just means that it's going to show all the dark pixels and not show all the light ones. All right, cool. So that's it. I'm going to go ahead and make it bigger. And then I also use this, and I played with the opacity. Here's my opacity. Notice how I can make it kind of like a shadow. And then I did all kinds of crazy stuff, guys. I went to adjustment, and you can do all kinds of stuff. Like, let's say I want to colorize it. I'm going to go to hue and saturation and click on colorize. Now, if you notice, if you look real close, my guitar element can change colors. I guess I'll make it dark blue. And I can also make it more or less saturated. And then I started playing with a lot of the filters. Like I did all kinds of stuff. Like I added noise. I actually blurred it a little bit. I did all kinds of crazy stuff. If I try pixelate, that kind of gives it that kind of lo-fi pixel background. And that's just kind of getting started. There is so much you can do with this. And once you get to a place that you are happy with it, you probably want to crop it a little bit. And that's with this tool right here, this cropping tool. Boom. And you grab a corner and you can kind of get rid of the excess stuff that maybe you don't like. And there you go. You'll hit apply, and then you'll go ahead and save your layered document on your OneDrive here. Again, so you're going to go to Save. Make sure you choose PXZ. And then go to your project folder, which is inside of your OneDrive folder. If you put it anywhere else, you may not ever see it again. So I'm going to go name this. Ta-da! And there you go, guys. Have fun, experiment. Don't get too critical on yourself. Just enjoy the process. Have a good day.